So welcome everyone. My name is Sherry Goche and I'm joined with Laura Schoeggl from Sqweee. And today we are going to be talking all about those best practices for host coaching, right, Laura?
Absolutely. So I'm going to take you right into this. I'm going to run through my presentation just from beginning to end, give you guys a lot of information to chew through, and then I'll open up for questions after we get through it all. So we're going to just get started here. So as Sherry said, we are talking about success tips for Sqweee that are related specifically to host coaching. So that is, I think, the secret of success to Sqweee. So we want to spend some time kind of running through that. Before we dive into any of the logistics of host coaching, I want to talk about a little bit about Sqweee, because I think that understanding how Sqweee is different and maybe even more importantly, why it's different, why we have built it the way that we have, is really a success tip that shouldn't be skipped. Knowing that, having that in your back pocket really comes into play when you start communicating with your host. So just as a quick recap, I think some of you have got a pretty good feel for Sqweee. Some of you may still be pretty new. We really think of Sqweee as a virtual living room. So that means it's a lot like being in a real living room. So if you are accustomed to running home shows, you might find that some of the host coaching that you would do for a home party carries over to a Sqweee event. So just like being in a real living room, everyone is seeing the same thing at the same time. So at a home show, if you are doing a demo, everyone is seeing you. They're looking at you at that time. Same thing in Sqweee. We have the posts changing automatically for each guest. So they are literally seeing the same thing at the same time. They're talking about the same thing at the same time. We have that chat bar with that one long flowing conversation that really mimics real life conversation. The other thing that's important to remember about Sqweee that's a difference from running, say, a Facebook party, is that for most people, just like coming to a host's home, right, they are coming to Sqweee as sort of a one-time event space or an every so often event space. So you want to make sure that you're planning in your host coaching and in your preparation leading up to and during the event to be building ways to communicate with your guests outside of Sqweee, because once they leave that, guest's virtual home for the evening, they're not going to be back in there the next day. Another difference about Sqweee is that we have typically shorter events. So I think that many of you have already been doing, short events on Facebook, so not much difference there. But if you have been doing multi-day events, this is going to be a little bit of a change for you. It does work best, Sqweee works best as a live event atmosphere. And that's, again, because we're really trying to bring back social sharing, social shopping into a party experience. So we want to make sure that people are there for that live engagement so they really get that experience. So one great benefit of this is that it's going to keep parties feeling a little bit fresher for guests, because it's kind of just, they come in, they are there for that one event, and then they're gone. So there's not like the pre-party buildup where they need to be commenting on lots of posts or watching a page for multiple days. It's really like just coming together for an evening and sharing an experience together. This means it's a little bit less work for the host, also for the consultant, because they're not needing to go in and, like I said, check on pages repeatedly over a number of days to do pre-party posts and follow up and all that good stuff. The other nice thing about Sqweee that's a little bit different is you're going to get some better exposure to your guests because you are having them there in that living room environment with their full attention on you. So that actually goes right into my next slide here, which is the key benefits of hosting a Norwex Sqweee event. And this is where I really want you guys to take note on this screen in particular. These points can be really powerful when you are speaking to hosts and sharing with them the benefits of why they may want to party with you on Sqweee. So right off the bat, it's giving the feeling of chatting with friends in person. Again, that one long flowing conversation, that feels like a conversation that we might have when we come together in real life. You still have the convenience of being online, but you have that social feel. So for your host, they can feel really confident going and offering to their friends to come join a Sqweee event, because they're not just saying, hey, will you come and get these really awesome Norwex products? They're also offering the opportunity of, you know what, come check these products out. They're amazing. And I just really would love to have the evening to spend some time with you. And they actually can spend some time and really engage. Another really great benefit that they get to offer to their friends is a break from all those social media notifications that we get, like when we're partying in Facebook, right? Those notifications are going off all the time. And that means that we are constantly fighting against those notifications for the guest's attention. And honestly, we all get a little bit notified out. Is that a technical term? I'm not sure. But we get kind of burned out on notifications. We get a little bit burned out on social media. And this gives them the opportunity to unplug for the night and yet still connect with friends far and wide. We also have fun interactive post types. So, we've got the spinning the wheel, the confetti, things like that, that they have a more engaging experience to offer their friends. And it's also easier for their friends because they're going to be able to star those favorite items and build that wish list for themselves right as they're following along. One key benefit, more on the consultant side, but I like to point it out, you're going to get a very clear picture of participation in an event from the RSVPs. And that's because Sqweee is built intentionally to be an opt-in invitation system. So that means that your guests, they have to go to the link, they have to confirm their RSVP in order to be part of the event, right? It's not like being added into a Facebook page by a well-meaning host. It's an active action that they're taking. And because of that, I have one director that I work with who she shared with me, one of her favorite things about Sqweee is, as in her words, it eliminates false hope. On Facebook, you might get a lot of RSVPs, but a lot of them are courtesy clicks, or they got added in or whatever, and they don't actually intend to come to the event. That doesn't happen with Sqweee. If someone is RSVPing on Sqweee because they had to go through the action of doing that themselves, they generally are going to be participating. And a lot of times you actually have a little bit more attend than RSVP. So you get a clear picture of participation. If you only have 1 or 2 RSVPs, you know exactly what you need to be doing, which is more host coaching. So we're here for that today. Also, of course, it allows the opportunity to connect with friends near or far. That was always true with Facebook parties, but when you're partying on Sqweee, they don't have to have social media accounts. So for your hosts, that's another benefit, that they can reach all of their friends regardless of their preferences in social media. So again, these are all great things to just kind of have in mind, because you're going to want to share some of these with your hosts so that they are extra excited about this experience and understand why it's a little bit different. One key difference that you're going to see me talking about a lot today is on-time arrival. Because of everything we just discussed, the fact that we're showing up, that we're together, that we're watching things together, that it is really a social experience, those are all reasons that it's important that guests arrive on time. We don't want them to miss anything, but because Sqweee is still new to most people, we also want to give them the best odds of kind of orienting less frustration by being there on time and kind of getting their footing before you dive into the content. So that is one thing that is important about on-time arrivals, just kind of helping them get. Okay, so if you want to make the most of your selling opportunity, right? You want to make the most of building up those connections, making loyal relationships. You want to have their attention for the full time. And so that on-time arrival is really important. And this is something that I like to train on and educate, because for many of us, when we were working Facebook parties, and I did that for many years, convenience became sort of the ultimate perk that we were offering, that you can come to this party, you can get these great Norwex products, and you can do it on your own terms and at your own time. That's definitely a benefit. But when it comes to selling, right, it's really, convenience doesn't trump everything. We want the opportunity to be engaged personally and have that full attention. So again, that on-time arrival is a little bit different, but it works to their favor as well as our favor as consultants. So that's kind of something to keep in mind. You can do this. You can work on increasing your amount of on-time arrival by educating your guests on it. That comes into play in many different areas. It might be in your invitation wording. So one phrase that I really love to use in this respect is when giving invitation wording, that last sentence is, can you hop on at that time? So instead of saying, would you like to join in? Would you like an invite? Are you interested? Those are all questions we could use. But the one question that I find most effective is, are you able to hop on at that time? Because it's planting the seed that on-time arrival is significant. So that can also come into play with your RSVP survey. You might be mentioning an on-time prize drawing, things like that. You could consider sharing a video of yourself that talks about Sqweee, talks about why they're going to be excited to come on time, and that can be something your host can share as well. So there's lots of different ways that you can kind of increase the amount of people who are arriving on time. This is definitely an area of host coaching to continue working on and continue refining, because it is an important one. So we're going to talk now about finding your host. So I do get a lot of questions about, okay, I've been on Facebook and I've got some hosts who are used to partying on Facebook. How do I transfer that to Sqweee? And what do I say? So we're going to go through that for a little bit here. So one thing I think is important is to lead with confidence. It is understandable that if you're starting on a new platform yourself and you're in a learning curve yourself and you haven't really done a lot of events on Sqweee, you may be feeling a little bit of uncertainty yourself. That's definitely understandable, but it's not something that you want to pass along to your hosts. You want to lead with confidence, because a confident consultant leads to a confident host, and a confident host is excited and engaged. So of course we want that. I find that consultants have the most success making that transition when they just speak matter of fact about having made that switch to virtual parties. So just remember, you're the expert. Whether or not you feel like you have that confidence, you definitely have more experience than your host does. They probably, unless they're in direct sales themselves, they probably don't know the industry and they don't always know what works best. So they are trusting you to be the expert and guide them towards a successful party. So here's just some sample wording you can use. I'm running my parties on a fun new website now instead of Facebook. We are seeing great results for hosts and great feedback from their friends. That is all very true. We are hearing that. You can see that in some posts that are shared on different pages. So if you haven't yet had that experience yourself, feel confident in borrowing that experience. Lean into those benefits that I've already mentioned, and just lead with confidence. I do recommend keeping it simple. That's part of that matter of fact kind of statement. And then wait until your first host coaching chat to start getting into those differences, unless of course it comes up sooner. So filling your calendar. So if you are just starting out with Sqweee and you need hosts to coach, right? You don't have the hosts yet. This is a great way to get started. Recommend holding your own party. So whether that's a mystery host party, a VIP party, whatever fits you and your Norwex business, you want to do this for a couple of different reasons. One, well, I should say a few reasons. One, it's going to help you learn the mechanics of Sqweee. So you're going to get confidence there. You also are giving your prospective hosts familiarity with the platform themselves. So they can find reasons to be excited themselves. They can share that with people. They might find ways to navigate around that when their guests are in a party and they ask a question, they can then help them. So it's really valuable experience for your host, and it can make it easier for them to understand what Sqweee is and why they might want to do it. It also gives you valuable experience on what a good host needs to do on Sqweee, because obviously you're going to be a good host, right? So you know the steps that you took to make a successful party, and you can pass along that experience to your host. You're also going to be able to catch problems in your developing party a little bit easier, because you'll know, okay, this is what a normal party looked like when I hosted it and it went really well, and I can kind of see where we're veering off from that. So it's really valuable experience to host yourself on Sqweee. And then of course a booking blitz. I think you guys probably all know how to do one of these, but you are looking at past customers, hosts, and your personal network, and going through just kind of connecting, building those valuable relationships. I love mentioning a seasonal need and then inviting them to host. So I've given you an example on this post here, this slide. So an opener, this is just connecting. This is showing that you are genuine in relating to them. So, hi Jen, loved seeing the photos of you and the kids at the petting zoo. Are you enjoying the spring weather? And then waiting for a response. transitioning now into a business talk. So I wanted to quickly check in on what you might have on your Norwex wish list for the summer. Many of my hosts are loving getting our travel EnviroCross to keep kids clean during summer travel. Do you have any fun plans coming up? And then we switch to that invitation to host. That sounds so fun. Hopefully they had a fun plan, right? I would love to help you earn a bunch of Norwex for quick cleaning on the go. Would you like to consider a few dates for a quick online party with your friends? So that's essentially working your way through a booking blitz and finding your Sqweee hosts. Okay, once you have a host, you want to focus on that strong host relationship. Sqweee is absolutely, hands down, every way you look at it, a relationship tool. So it's built to work on building strong relationships with customers. Same thing with hosts. You want to make sure you have a really strong relationship with them going into the parties so that they are absolutely your partner. So setting the stage with them. I really believe that successful parties, really wherever you're holding them, whether it's a home party, Sqweee, wherever, Facebook, your host relationship should be your top priority because that makes everything easier down the road. The more invested you can get your host, better off you're going to be. So giving time and attention, you want to start on, intentionally focusing on interacting with your host as a friend, maybe finding some social media posts that you relate to and commenting on them. Maybe creating a wish list for that person based on what they've said about, I really hate cleaning my kitchen. Maybe you can pull together a quick wish list that shows you're really thinking of them. I do recommend mailing a host packet. I think that this is a personal decision and some do and some don't when it comes to a virtual event. But I think it's important to make a physical connection in addition to a virtual one. So, mailing out that catalog so they can fall in love with everything and build a really long host wish list. Because when that gets long, they're more motivated. Also, you want to maybe look at increasing the host's motivation to earn rewards. We're going to talk about that a little bit later when we talk about incentivizing, and providing a sample. So if you want to provide like a sample of the laundry detergent, for example, and request that they give it a go and then have a testimonial ready that they can just share in the group chat during the party. So hosting steps on Sqweee, I think it comes down to a 5-step system. So these are the things that they are going to need to do in order to have a successful event. The first is personal one-on-one invite messages. So again, we have that opt-in system. In order for a host to invite to Sqweee, they're going to be reaching out to their friends and asking if they can hop on at that time, right? That magic question. So that is the first one. The second one is encouraging RSVP surveys. I lump this in with sending out the event link. We're going to talk about that in a little bit too. So when they send the event link, encouraging people to take that survey immediately. Number 3 is reminder messages. So Sqweee does send out automated email notifications to anyone who has signed up for them during RSVPs. But no matter what platform I'm partying on, I never rely on a system to be the end all when it comes to notifications, because we do get a lot of notifications. We get a lot of emails. Sometimes we miss things. And you really can't replace that personal connection of a host showing them, hey, I'm really excited to see you there. And that's what that on-time reminder does. Make sure that we get everyone there. Chatting in the live event. That is their 4th responsibility. And that is a stage in host coaching. I talk to hosts and say, hey, your only job for this evening is to chat. Chat often, ask questions of your guests, that kind of thing. Really asking them to partner with you in making a conversation. And then the 5th one is going to be follow-up messages. So that's kind of the whole round of what they do to make a successful Sqweee event. I like to start them off on that process with ideally a phone call. And I will tell you, I'm not a phone person. I really don't like talking on the phone, but I think that this is a pretty key way to get on the same page with your host and make sure that you're really making a connection and making them your partner. At minimum, I would say use a voice message on like a Facebook Messenger to kick it off if you're not able to do a phone call, because they're going to hear your vocal tone. They're going to be able to hear your smiles even, and that just makes a really big difference. Your enthusiasm is contagious. Take any opportunity you can to spread it around. So we're going to go, when you're having that conversation, you're going to go through kind of these different steps. I'm going to walk you through every step. You want to mention anytime you're asking your host to do something, you want to tie it in with the benefit. So let's say you're asking your host, okay, I'm going to give you wording. I want you to go ahead and send these out one by one. That is going to make it so much more likely that you're going to get amazing host rewards from this party, because each of your friends is going to really feel like you thought of them personally, and having them see you take the time to reach out makes it so much more likely that they will decide to join in and take the time to join us. So as you can see, I presented a step and I presented why they want to do that. And that really does help get everyone on the same page with you. And that's all kind of asking for partnership. So you can even say that. Just want to ask you to be my partner in this. I'm excited to work with you in making this a really fun party that gets you a ton of rewards. Okay, I think I kind of went through gently detailing the expectations. You do want to make it seem fun, light. You don't want to give them a big old list of duties all at once. Break it up into little pieces. But that first phone call is generally just exciting them, asking them what they're most excited about, because that can come in handy later to know that. And then just letting them know why it's so important that we have one-on-one messages, and also why on time is important. So I think I covered this as well. Getting chatty, that's the #1 job for a host during the event. Chatting early, immediately after joining in that event, chatting often, sharing their enthusiasm. You can just let your host know. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to hear, vocal tone in text, so don't be afraid to gush. That can really help your friends kind of understand how you feel about the products. You personally want to lead by example, which means you're going to be in that chat a lot. You're going to be asking engagement questions in the chat frequently. Of course, we have the chat script that Norwex has provided for you, which can be a great starting point. It can take care of some of those things that you maybe want to say about posts every single time, but you want to go beyond that. That's not kind of the end all. If it doesn't work for you, you don't need to use it either. You can kind of make it your own, but make sure that you are genuinely in that chat and responding to people as well. It's a good idea to connect one-on-one with private welcome messages, but you also want to establish a chat with your host immediately. So, hey, this is where we're going to talk behind the scenes. So if you have any questions or you wanted to kind of let me know about something with a certain guest, this is the place to do it. So just establish that. Okay, and then the last part of a host relationship that I want to talk about is making a game of it. Like I said, making it fun. So looking at ways that you can incentivize during the party. And when it comes to Sqweee, these are the most impactful areas that you can incentivize. For your host, it's going to be sending personal messages. So that might be the invites, it might be the on-time reminders, it might be the follow-up ones, probably going to be all of the above. You can also incentivize collecting outside orders and getting bookings from friends. It's so great to have your host as a partner in that, right? So one of my favorite ways is just making a quick tic-tac-toe game, and you might have invite messages in one corner and follow-up in another corner, booking, number of people arriving on time, that kind of thing. That's just kind of a fun little game where they can start checking off the actions that they're doing to help make the party a success. You can also incentivize guests, of course. So things that you may want to consider incentivizing for them would be completing the RSVP survey, that critical on-time arrival, participating in party posts, participating in polls. Maybe you have some poll posts in there that ask them how interested they are in hosting. If you're incentivizing participation in all posts, you're more likely to get an answer. And then placing an order that evening. Definitely helpful to minimize follow-up, give your host a feeling of instant success if we can get more parties in the evening of the event. All right, inviting guests. So we're gonna switch gears and talk about how do your host guests get connected to Sqweee. So this is, again, that opt-in system. So you're gonna hold your host's hand throughout this process. So you are going to be having them reach out however they feel most comfortable. So they might be on Instagram a lot. They might be messaging on Instagram, or maybe they're using Facebook Messenger. Maybe they're using text. I highly recommend text as much as possible because a couple of reasons. One, you are taking it out of Facebook, which means you're not going to have the same problems with Facebook filters, where they might block messages if your host is messaging too quickly. You're getting outside of all those notifications. So text in general tends to be a little bit more noticed because we don't get the same volume of texts that we do get the same volume of Facebook chatter. So again, the important part, however they do it, is just one-on-one communication. Providing specific wording. You're the expert, you're the guide. You want to provide what you know is effective wording. And then from there, you can recommend a couple spots for them to personalize it in. I think the most important thing to know with providing specific wording is to end whatever that invite message is with a question. And I know many consultants include a question in there somewhere, but I have learned from experience that it needs to be the very last sentence, because if there's anything that comes after that question, they tend to respond a little bit less. So ending that invite message with a question to encourage conversation and make sure that your host is getting as many responses as possible. All right, getting a solid guest count. This is where we get into a little bit more of the logistics of host coaching. So I'm going to tell you my system of host coaching, and you may have modifications that work for you. You know, what works for me may not work for you, but this is what we've seen many consultants successful with. So having a magic number of at least 25 who say yes. So during that coaching call, I just let hosts know, hey, you're going to want to send these individual messages. Here's why it's important. And just keep messaging until you get at least 25 who say yes. Keep a list of all the people who say yes, because that's going to come in handy when you do follow-up. We're going to get to that. But that's basically what I would be saying, right, when I'm talking to a host. And so I'm not giving the link. Notice we're only having them work on asking. So the host's full attention right now is just on reaching out and finding who wants to come to their Norwex Sqweee event. So keeping that list who says yes. And I think a really important part of this is remembering to check back in. So then let your host know, I'll be checking back with you tomorrow to see how you're doing on progress. And then the next day, hey, Susan, how are your invite messages going? How many have said yes so far? So far is one of my very favorite phrases when it comes to host coaching, because it implies, one, their results can change, and two, their work's not done. So I've now asked how many have said so far. So I can start making adjustments with my coaching if it looks like they're not very far. They come back and say, oh, I only have 3 so far. First of all, I'm going to be a cheerleader. That's awesome. Hey, that's 3 you didn't have yesterday. Good job. No doubt you're still going to hear back from some more. How many invite messages have you sent out so far? That's another really important question for a consultant to ask, to really keep tabs on how progress is going. You don't want to wait until two days before the party to realize that they only sent 30 messages and had 3 say yes, right? You want to know that earlier on so that you can keep working with that person, helping them find new people to reach out to. All right, so when they have 25, and this question comes up, so I'll quickly touch on it. Yes, I personally will run events that are smaller, but I really try to keep people at that 25 through at least 2, if not 3 rounds of inviting before we open it up. When we're ready, then I'm providing specific wording for sharing that event link, preferably by text, as I said. When sending that, you want to mention on-time attendance. You can share, there's a quick video that we have of what to expect at a Norwex Sqweee event. You could share that. But you definitely, the one thing I would absolutely have in there is encouraging completing that RSVP survey immediately. So a lot of times I'll actually only focus on that. That's the only thing to say is, you know, hey, here's the link. So excited to see you there. Go ahead and follow that link right now, because you're going to get some bonus prize entries. It's going to take you probably less than 30 seconds to do. Are you able to do it now? Again, ending with a question, right? That keeps their attention on the survey. It also saves the on-time incentive for the reminder message. So it gives your host something new to say when they're reaching out. That if you're going to be doing an on-time prize drawing, you could mention it then. Okay, so before, during, and after, what does it look like working with your host as a partner in your Sqweee event? I think it's really important to make hosting easy and fun, right? It doesn't need to feel like work. They're going to need to put effort into it, but as much as possible, we want to make it feel fun. So I think that starts with setting up that host page for them. So if you are connected on Facebook, you can quickly go grab their profile photo, upload it for them, put in their name, and then give a sample welcome message to their guests. just to give them an example, right? And then when you share it to them, let them know, hey, you can swap out the photo. Would you mind personalizing? You can replace the message, all of that. But that makes it a nice shortcut where if they don't have a lot of time, they can just quickly go in there, make a couple edits and save and be done. Other ways that I like to make hosting fun is to feature the host's favorite products. So that is something that allows you to put a spotlight on your host. You can have an engagement question on that post that encourages people to dive in. Maybe it's sharing something they love about the host, how they met them, any of those things, guessing what their favorite product is, whatever you want to do. But that gives a nice spotlight for the host. It gives an unbiased voice for Norwex products, right? It's not the consultant sharing all of it. It's giving the host a chance to speak on the product's behalf. It also can help encourage bookings, because if you have a question that really kind of showers the love on your host, anyone watching is going to kind of want that moment for themselves as well. Customizing your party is definitely important. As I said, it's a relationship tool on Sqweee. So the more that we can kind of put ourselves into it, the more people are going to be able to make that relationship with us. Meeting your guests truly does begin before the party. So if you are using your RSVP survey to collect a text number, don't hesitate to make that connection with them before you even get to on-time reminders or anything like that. Just, hey, thanks so much for your RSVP to Susan's party. I'm so excited to see you there. And then including a really quick, easy, brainless, as I call it, engagement question to get back into a conversation with them. So something like, you know, I'd love to customize this party to what you're looking for. What is your least favorite room to clean? And that now is, you know, it could be a one-word answer. So you hopefully have gotten them successfully in a dialogue where you can start chatting and making a connection. So that is using the RSVP survey tool to learn about what interests your host guests and making that bridge for chatting with them. You can also customize your party by highlighting your host, as I talked about. So we mentioned, you know, having the post with your host's favorite products under it. The Norwex product library makes that super simple. It's basically just going in, searching for the product, and attaching it to that post. If you need a quick video on that, we can help you with that. But that can be a way to just absolutely make it personal to that party by having that in there. I also think that if you don't want to be going live, if you don't want to mess with that whole setup, you can also create a very quick personalized recorded video that you use just at the beginning of the party that includes your host's name. And it's going to feel a lot more like you're live there with them because they know it's specific to that party. So that's another way that you can highlight that this is custom to them. Okay, and then this is kind of an afterwards. When you've gone through all this effort to create a partner, to create a Sqweee enthusiast in your host, right? You want to retain that relationship and retain all that effort that you put into it, and make sure that they are still around next time you want to be hosting, having them host with you. So continue to focus on the host after your event is over. I recommend scheduling follow-up tasks in your planner. Sqwee's event info pages make it really easy to go back in and see stuff about their party that give you a conversation point moving forward. We're actually working on developing some new things in the event info pages right now, so this will get even easier for you in just a little bit. Other ideas, you can send thinking of you product recommendations periodically if something comes out that you know is a similar product to what they've liked. But it's really important to chat about more than just the business, wanting to become friends with them so that that loyalty remains. So again, things like connecting on their posts, commenting on photos, keeping notes on what you have in conversations. All of that is with the goal of not reinventing the wheel in your network and retaining that loyalty you've already invested in. That is basically what I had to go through today. I'm going to pop into questions now and answer them. But before I do, I just wanted to recommend, if you haven't already, we do have tutorials available on our website. It's more the mechanics of using the system. So today we're talking entirely about the consultant side of using Sqweee. But if you do need additional support, just learning how to get up and rolling, I encourage you to go subscribe to our channel and stay in the loop there because we'll have more videos coming soon. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just gathering some of the chats. So one of the things that I'll just reiterate is, yes, we have recorded this, and we will actually ensure that everyone who registered the recording. Questions, Laura. They would love an e-presentation copy.
Yes, I went fast because I don't want to keep you here for too long, but yeah, we can do it so you can kind of go through and slowly digest it. I have a host coaching training that is available on the Sqweee Life, which is our member support group. So if you're not in our member support group, that might be a very helpful place for you to be. It tends to be where we kind of communicate on things. So that will go through some of what we talked about today, but it also goes through kind of like the schedule of typically when I'm doing some of these elements. So that might be a helpful one. As Sherry said, it's about half an hour long, so it can be a little bit of a time investment, but generally the consultants who go through that training, that investment pays off very quickly in the results of their Sqweee event. So I do recommend checking that out. In fact, there are a number of trainings in there that are sort of along these lines, you know, troubleshooting, that host relationship, things like that. So we have a lot of resources there for you.
Hi, Laura. This is Diana. I'm jumping here on behalf of Sherry because she's having some internet issues. Yeah, so I just wanted to share some of the questions that we're getting here. One of them is about the RSVP survey. They're asking what it is, and yeah, I don't know if you can just shed some light into that and how it can be used and the benefits of kind of incorporating that into their Sqweee event.
Absolutely. And I also, before I dive into answering that, I want to encourage all of you to mark your calendars for our next training, which actually, got to look at my calendar. It's in May, and it's going to be on follow-up. So we will talk in depth about the RSVP survey in there because that's actually a key element of follow-up. But just to answer your question quickly now, so when you are setting up your event, you are able to add in an RSVP survey. Norwex has already built one. That code has been shared, you know, it's on your Norwex back office on the Sqweee planner. So you're actually able to just paste in the code, and it will have some questions that will be asked to your guests when they RSVP. You can add your own questions, you can modify them. So it's very flexible. Again, you can make it you, but that is a great tool for gauging who's going to be coming to the event, how is your host doing on, you know, getting solid attendance. And it's absolutely powerful for learning about your guests and making sure that you're speaking to what they want to learn about and what they're most likely to buy. So when, let me just kind of back up on the inviting side of things. We talked about how your host just sends out a link, right? They find out who wants to come, and then they send out a link to those who do. That one link is all that guests need to RSVP. So when they first click on it, it's going to take them where they, you know, enter in their name, and then it's going to take them into an RSVP survey where they answer some questions for you. They're actually going to use that same link to get into the event at party time. So nice and simple there.
Awesome, thank you. So we are getting more questions coming through. That's very exciting. We have one from Andrea Kluster. She's asking if that you don't have to give your host her event link until after she has confirmed her responses.
Yes, Andrea, you are correct. There's a couple schools of thought on this. So again, I'm sharing what has worked for me in my own business, what we have seen many consultants have success with, but there are some who choose not to do it that way, and that's okay too. So you'll find your rhythm. But here's why I find it's most successful, because I'm not keeping hosts sort of on divided attention. Like if I have the link for them to give right away, they sort of switch gears into kind of, you know, done with inviting before they're actually done with inviting. So I like to keep my host concentrating on that guest count as long as possible. The other thing the other reason why it can be helpful to save that link is because it's actually a little bit of a host safeguard. Not that, you know, some hosts they follow every direction to a T, others don't. And some will be tempted to just slap it up on a Facebook post and call that good, you know, consider that they're inviting. It really is all about active inviting, active participation. So anytime that your host is just sort of passively putting out that link, you're going to struggle in attendance. So that's why I prefer to hold it until I've really worked with my host to get them up there. It just kind of keeps them motivated. Like they can't actually get to the next step until they've really worked through the attendance.
Now, how far in advance do you think a consultant should start coaching her hosts?
So that also varies. It really depends on, of course, how far out you book the event. Typically, I think between, maybe having that first phone call, right? That call where we set the stage, that's about 7 to 10 days in advance. If you've booked a party quicker than that, you're just going to condense everything. So it's not that it can't be done, but just kind of on a general basis, 7 to 10 days in advance. So let me just kind of whip through what my basic schedule is. So kind of at the time of booking, whenever that is, just sharing a little bit about Sqweee, sharing enthusiasm for it, that kind of thing. 10 days out, having that coaching call with your host, which is going to be talking about a couple of those expectations, just how it's a little bit different, why it's exciting. 7 days out is when I send out that host page. So that's what we talked about with, maybe putting their Facebook photo on, putting in that welcome message that they can update. That's typically about 7 days out. 6 days out would be sending out that invite wording. And this is another benefit of Sqweee, is that because there's not pre-party posts, you can keep them focused on attendance for quite a bit longer. That is their main focus. They're not worrying about going and commenting on anything or tagging people. So 6 days out should be pretty good for getting people started on inviting. 5 days out, that's when I'm asking my hosts about where they're at on their invite messages, how their progress is going, also asking about their favorite products that can feature them. 4 days out, checking back on that invite progress. So making sure if they're struggling, maybe I can, help as the consultant, help that person think about groups that they might not have thought of yet, maybe neighbors or, people that they know through preschool or their kids or things like that. So that's kind of watching that invite progress again. 3 days out, asking about joining so that there's time to kind of get them up and rolling on Sqweee if they wanted to do the party. 2 days out, typically, I know you guys have a lot of great images that are available to you through PhotoFi and your Norwex back office stuff. You know more about that than I do, but I know that there's a huge amount of images that you guys have, and so that would be a great time to have them post about it on their Facebook page. But as long as they've kind of gone through the inviting step first, that's sort of a net to catch anyone that they've missed. And then, and that's typically when I would be starting to communicate with guests as well, at least that 2 days out time period. And then the day of is sending that reminder message and having, your hosts send out those reminders.
Awesome. So many great tips, guys. Okay. We're getting a few consultants asking about that Sqweee Live support group on Facebook. How can they join that group?
Yeah, let me just type it in here so that you guys can just directly follow this link.
Awesome. Another question that's coming through about how they can track everything, all the answers that they're getting, all the feedback from the customers, their answers to the polls and things like that.
Yeah, I have really good news for you. It is all automatically tracked for you. So you're going to find that on the event info page, which you can see it before the event. So if you want to go in and look at everybody's RSVP questions, you'll be able to go in and look at that there. You can also see it after the event. And after the event, it has a whole lot more. It's going to have your entire chat from the whole party will be stored in there for you. So you, like I said, with customer care, you can go back to that even months later and take a look and see what was talked about. How many people wanted the mop from that if you have a great, mop promotion or hosting special. So that's all stored for you within Sqweee. And as I said, we're actively working on that right now. So you're going to see some great updates coming to that too.
Excellent. One more question. I believe this was already answered, but let's just answer it again for her because I think she missed it. She's asking at what point consultants are supposed to send the links to their guests for the party.
Yeah, so typically we're waiting until they have their list of people who want to come. And I had mentioned in the training that I personally like a target of 25. and just kind of let them know, just keep inviting until you get to 25. If they have really done due diligence and I've worked with that person, like I'm going to hold a party no matter what size it is, because you just never know what comes out of it. And you do have interested people who want to come hear about your products. So that's just an assurance. If the host gets a little bit nervous, you can just let them know, like, hey, big parties are fun, small parties are fun. Like, we'll have fun either way. Let's just make sure that we're really, doing our best before we get to that point, so that we can have an amazing party and have amazing rewards for you. Most of my hosts find that it adds up faster than you think. So that's kind of the verbiage that, if you have a host that's like, whoa, 25 people, I only know 30, they know more than that. And, you can usually help them stretch that a little bit.
Excellent. Thank you so much for all this information, Laura. This is just incredible and so useful. It's going to be very useful to all of people watching this. So yeah, we want to just remind all the consultants watching this that there is going to be the CEO area with all the Sqweee information is going to be updated in the coming, 1 or 2 weeks. So that's very exciting. And we're going to be sharing a very simplified checklist for you guys to kind of use as you prepare for these Sqweee events, and, just to kind of share with your hosts and whatnot. So we want you to just keep an eye out for that. We're going to let you know as soon as, all this is available for you guys. So yeah, just watch out for that. And also don't forget that we have a lot of training videos in our YouTube channel, where we currently have one playlist with all new videos that have been added there with very useful information for you to kind of keep in mind before you prepare for your Sqweee event, during your Sqweee event, kind of how to use the timeline codes, all the codes that are in the planner, for those of you that are not very familiar with it. So just be sure to, let me see. Yeah, Sherry just shared on the chat the link to that playlist. So be sure to check it out. You're going to find quite a few videos there that are very, very useful. Yeah, we want to thank you guys for coming. We really hope this was helpful to you guys. Don't forget that we're going to have a new webinar in May, on May 8th. That's going to be a follow-up webinar. So a lot of you are asking a lot of follow-up questions. So you definitely want to be sure to join us on that webinar. It's going to be really, really exciting. And yeah, thank you, Laura, so much for doing this with us.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye, everyone.